Colin, welcome back to the land of review. Mm-hmm. There's a new Alien trailer out. People seem excited about it. So what better time to talk about Predator? You know what? I genuinely, when we were talking about doing a Predator 2 review, I was thinking about the Predator franchise. They've never been blockbusters. One comes out, it does okay enough, and then a few years later they try and make another one. I completely forgot that there was one in like 2018.
Predators.
The Predator. No, Predators was the Robert Rodriguez produced one.
Okay.
There was The Predator.
Shane Black.
The Shane Black written directed one. I completely forgot it existed. Because I was like, you know what? That franchise has a pretty good batting average. I completely forgot about The Predator. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a, hey, what are you doing? This is a good one.
Saw that at the Toronto International Film Festival with Shane Black in attendance. And he said, somebody posted a video online, but it was like, you know, this movie is for people of a certain age. And he said, I'll say something. Whoever knows it says the reply. And it was like, I need more Calgon. And then nobody said anything. And it was like, I said, ancient Chinese secret, huh? And then he was like, hey.
Ancient Chinese secret, huh?
Calgon helps detergents get laundry up to 30% cleaner.
So I guess it's for olds.
Did understanding a Calgon reference make the movie any better?
No.
I don't understand the connection.
No, it did. The beer certainly did. I was very, very drunk.
But we're here to talk about a good Predator movie.
Yeah.
It's funny because last time you were here, you talked with Mike about RoboCop 2. And now we're talking about Predator 2. And I feel like there's some similarities between them.
There are, because it's like you're following up, I think RoboCop and Predator could probably be considered two of the best action sci-fi movies of all time.
I'd say they're both pretty much perfect movies.
Yeah. And I think whoever has to follow those up has quite a challenge ahead of them. Predator 2, did you see this in the theater or like video?
No, I was still pretty young when it came out.
Okay.
I had a friend though, I think I talked about this, Jack and I talked about the first Predator years ago at this point. And I think I mentioned that I had a friend that was obsessed with Predator, like as a character, and loved that first movie. But he would always shut it off before the Predator blows up at the end because he didn't want the Predator to die. So he saw Predator 2 in the theater.
So in his mind?
In his mind, the Predator just, I don't know, lived. Poochie went back to his home planet. But he went and saw Predator 2 in the theater. He had like a Predator poster on his wall that had like arrows pointing to all of his weapons and explaining what they are.
Oh
and what
my
they
God.
Did. He was obsessed with Predator.
That's amazing.
So he saw Predator 2 in the theater and he was like gushing about it after he saw it. He's like, there's this scene where the Predator has his frisbee blade thing and he cuts through a bunch of cows. And I thought he was talking about like cows in a field.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was talking about like at a meat packing place and they're hanging up.
And
I thought
Gary
he was just
Busey.
like, yeah, and Gary Busey. He didn't mention that, but he's like, he cut through all these cows. I thought he was talking about he cut through like live cows. I was so confused. But that scene, yeah, that's the infamous cow cutting scene. Gary Busey decides to try and confront the Predator after he's already been like horrifically burned. He has giant burns all over his head. But this is, I think I mentioned this when we talked about the first Predator, Jack and I. We talked briefly about the second movie. But the shot, the Predator has his disc, his blade disc, and he throws it, and it cuts through all these like big hunks of cow.
Carcasses.
And then we see, there's stuff in the foreground, but we see Gary Busey's legs.
Yeah.
He gets cut in half.
I know what you're going to say.
The legs fall down.
Yeah.
Where the fuck does the top half go? It doesn't fall.
He's floating, man. It's Gary Busey.
It's just the top half of his body just floating in the air.
It's like hang time for effect.
I mean, I know it's slow motion, but it's not that slow.
I know. I watched that like last night.
That's bothered me since I was a kid. I've always been like, where is the rest of his body?
I love the animated effect that they have in like it has this weird trail.
Oh yeah, it's like pixie dust comes off.
So strange and like otherworldly, but I love that thing. All I remember, I saw this movie in the theater, and I loved the first movie. My dad took me to see the first movie in a really, really dodgy like movie theater at the Eaton Center in Toronto, and it was like literally the guy would just go behind a wall, and it was like a big kind of lenticular screen.
Oh.
And they would project from behind that.
So it's like the little porno theater and
It
Taxi Driver that he goes to.
It looked like a porno theater, and it was just the two of us and some guy reading a newspaper at the front. It was.
Are you sure you weren't in a porno theater?
I don't know. So when I saw Predator 2 in the theater, I remember going to the mall, and then I remember calling my brother, because he was a huge fan, and telling him how terrible it was.
Oh.
And it's really lame. I'm like, they just like, it's just all nostalgia. I didn't say nostalgia, or like, that wasn't really a thing. So I was just like, it's just all callbacks to like the first movie, or they just like copy these gags.
You're one ugly motherfucker. You're one ugly motherfucker.
I was so naive, Jay. I had no idea what cinema was going to become. It's just the entire movies are made with like, callbacks and nostalgia now.
Yeah, there's a couple callbacks to the first movie. And like RoboCop 2, in a lot of ways, it is kind of hitting all the same beats as the first movie.
Right.
But also like RoboCop 2, this one feels a little bit meaner, a little more mean-spirited, a little more, some of the stuff like the news anchor, we have Morton Downey Jr. as the news guy. That feels like right out of RoboCop or something.
It does, yeah.
Yet another open conflict. Oh, fuck this, get me out of here!
Who the hell's in charge down here?
Did you ever watch his show?
I think I saw bits of it, because I would have been pretty young when it was on, but I remember it.
And I'm sick and tired of guys like you calling us bimbos.
Hey, sit down, you fat bitch.
Listen, you sit down.
I remember him more from, he was on like the best episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Really?
Playing a sleazy talk show host. And he's like exploring this supposedly haunted house. It's a like genuinely creepy episode. It's a good one. But yeah, he was of course famous for being this kind of pioneeer.
It's kind of like a proto like
show.
Jerry Springer or something like that. Yeah. I remember him just, he's being asked. He'd always like smoke and stuff like that. And
so it's kind of like, and this it's like stunt casting almost.
But he's good. He's genuinely good.
Yeah, he's good on that Tales from the Crypt episode. So it's nice seeing him show up. I don't know how much range he has. But seeing him pop up in this, and that's more stuff that feels like that kind of like satirical RoboCop world.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that like they're showing, again, they're like investigating the aftermath of this like massacre. So the Predator shows up, kills all of King Willie's people. And you see the aftermath, and it's like, all these skinned bodies, and like Morton Downey Jr. It's like playing on TV.
Oh, like, people are saying like, fuck, it doesn't matter. It's just all on network TV.
Everything I own, they shot it to pieces. My microwave, my steamer, my grill. You fucking vandal!
But I've totally come around on this movie like over the years, and I think I looked like Rotten Tomatoes was like a 30%.
Oh, geez.
Which is crazy.
It loses points for not. It's lacking. I mean, that first one is like just a perfect idea.
It's amazing.
Executed perfectly. And this one, they kind of do the same thing as the first one, where they withhold the Predator for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But we already know the Predator, so it doesn't work as well.
But I think, it's like they show him right in the first scene. So it's like...
That's true. They show him briefly, and then they kind of like hold back on him.
Yeah, I mean, the first movie is kind of like a slow burn. It's almost like a mystery. It's like they're kind of like trying to solve this mystery, blah, blah, blah. It's like we the audience, know what the Predator is at this point. So they know they can't just repeat that whole thing again. Mm-hmm. So they have to kind of like throw in, pepper in new things to kind of keep things interesting, while like Danny Glover and his crew are kind of like figuring out, what's like hunting them. But
well, I think that was what ended up being the smartest thing in the movie is not bringing back Arnold.
Yeah.
I've heard that was I've heard that it's either like a contract dispute or it was a scheduling issue.
It was probably salary.
Yeah, I'm assuming so, because they wanted to keep the budget similar to the first movie.
Yeah, and this came out like what, 1990? So he was probably the biggest he's ever been.
Yeah.
This was right before the release of Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And I think they just couldn't get him back for what he was asking. So.
I think that ended up being a good thing, though, because
I think so.
One, everyone always talks about the Alien franchise and the Predator franchise together.
Sure.
And like when I think of the Alien movies, to me that's Sigourney Weaver's franchise.
Yeah.
I know they did a few more after, but nobody likes those. But the main, like the original, like 4 movies, those are Ripley's movies.
Yeah.
There's an alien in them, or sometimes multiple aliens, but they're Ripley's movies. And I think if they made a Predator 2 and they brought back Arnold and he's hunting the Predator again, opening it up to a world where it's like, okay, we're bringing back the monster, but now it's in a completely different setting. The first one was in the jungle, now we're in the city. And that kind of opened the way to something like Prey from just a couple years ago.
Which was amazing,
which is really good.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's the concept. You can take this amazing movie monster and plop him into different time periods, different locations.
Yeah, and I think they kind of like opened it up. Like at the end of this movie, I think this is the first time, he throws him like the pirate gun, and it's sort of established that, these things have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, coming to Earth.
It also has a callback in Prey. They get that same gun.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the way to do it. It's like, just go to, like a samurai, version or something like that, or like a Western version or something.
I think that might be the next one. I think it might be a Western. I don't think there's a lot of information about it yet. But.
Yeah, I think they're doing like a sequel to Prey, and then also maybe like a spin-off or something, and like a different, but that's the way to do it. It's like, ditch the protagonist, just keep the Predator as like the monster, different time periods, learn about like these new characters and like, meet these new crews, which is what we do here, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've completely come around to this movie over the years. I fucking love it. And there's like certain days where it's like the kind of needle, I love Predator.
Yeah.
Just like I love RoboCop. I don't think I'd ever say RoboCop 2 is better than RoboCop, but there's some days I kind of like Predator 2 more.
I think it depends on what you're in the mood for, because this one's definitely a little sillier.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a little more mean-spirited, but it's also kind of goofy.
Trashier.
It's trashier. It's more comedic. In rewatching it this most recent time, it almost feels like, because of the time it came out, was it 1990 or 89?
I think it was 90.
It was, Danny Glover's in the lead. He was in the Lethal Weapon movies. So it almost feels like bordering on parody of where cop movies were at that point. Because the first time we see the police precinct in this movie, it's jam-packed with people. You have the cop pushing around the prostitute.
This is amazing though, but it's all wonder. It's like a big, amazing one take. It's like this dolly shot.
It's a well-constructed shot, but it's like every cop movie cliche in this one continuous tracking shot.
But you can see it as like every little group of people has like their own little story going on as like the camera goes by them, and like Danny Glover's coming in the back. But yeah, I think it's they do the little fake out at the beginning, which is kind of cool. It's like the jungle, you know what I mean? And then, it's LA, it's the urban jungle. So I think
takes place a few years in the future?
97.
97.
Which is when, was that Escape from New York as well?
Oh yeah.
Was that 97?
Yeah. I was trying to think of why they made it take place in just the few years future, and I think it's like, because the early 90s, there was a lot of concern about like gangs, inner city crime. And so this is almost like predicting, like as bad as it is now, in a few more years, it's going to
get worse.
Borderline post-apocalyptic, which it is in this movie.
This opening scene, I mean, this is the way to open a movie. And like the director, Stephen Hopkins, I think he was like 28 when he did this movie.
Yeah, coming right off of Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Jesus, man, he must have been really young. But they apparently, it was like rushed through so fast. They like wrote the script in 3 weeks, shot the movie in 4 weeks, and edited it in 4 weeks.
They shot this in 4 weeks?
Yeah.
That seems almost impossible.
Stephen Hopkins said he was 28, so he said, that's the only way I could like do this. So they would be dressing a set while he was shooting on another set.
Oh my God.
And they would just go on, and he said he was just shooting constantly for 4 weeks.
I guess when the movie you do before this is a low-budget Robert Shea New Line Cinema movie, those Nightmare on Elm Street movies were so like quickly put together.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably like a good training course for a bigger studio version of that same process.
Yeah, I guess so. But that's insane to me. It's just like, and how well this came out. Like, it's just so fucking awesome. He went on to do the Lost in Space movie.
Yeah.
He's worked quite a bit. You know what I mean? That wasn't so good, but he did a movie called Blown Away with Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the IRA movie, which has, I think, the biggest fucking explosion I've ever seen. Tommy Lee Jones plays like an IRA terrorist bomber, and he's doing like the worst Irish accent you've ever seen in your life.
Listen to me, Leo McGivney. I've come to bring you a gift.
I know he did Judgment Night,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
a movie that is kind of more famous for its soundtrack than the actual movie.
I've never seen that.
But that was one that was on cable a lot when I was young, so I'd see it. The first half of it is pretty good, and then I just always lose interest
like
halfway
Jeremy
through the
Piven?
movie. Jeremy Piven, and yeah, there's a bunch of Dennis Leary's the villain in it.
Oh, okay.
But that's another kind of like inner city crime movie, so there's a little bit of DNA from Predator too. But I think they wisely, because when talking about like gang violence and inner city crime, there's a way to do this story where it could have been more like grounded in reality, where you have like LA gangs. This movie, as it maybe is racist. I don't even know, but the gangs are like Colombians and this weird
like voodoo
Jamaican voodoo gang, which voodoo isn't even a Jamaican thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's completely ridiculous.
Is it like Haitian?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, voodoo is like a Haitian thing. I don't think Jamaica has anything to do with voodoo.
Well, whatever. Maybe in the year 1997, things have changed quite a
far
bit.
distant future.
So we're like thrown right into it. It's like this is an amazing scene. This is great, but it's like Danny Glover is coming, I think, right off of Lethal Weapon. That was like 84 or 5.
Yeah, well, one of the Lethal Weapon movies.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him as like the action hero because you kind of think him as like Murtaugh, like the old fuddy-duddy. This is him in like his prime. He's like, the badass action hero.
That's the one cliche they don't go to in this, and I'm assuming they didn't do it because of the Lethal Weapon connection. I was waiting for him to say that he's a few days away from retirement.
Oh, okay.
They don't do that in this.
No.
But yeah, that opening action scene, just like the amount of like squibs and gunfire, and it's silly, but it's kind of cool. He intentionally rips the door off of his car, and he's like driving up to him, like sticking his head out. It's completely absurd.
Like covers the car in like bulletproof vests. So it's like these cops are pinned down, and it's like this one Columbia, was it the Scorpions or something like that? They're like having it's literally just like a war zone. But I do love, and he's like gonna rescue the cops, but then he goes into his trunk, and he's got trunk is just like this fucking armory locker. It's just full of guns.
It's like I said, borderline parody.
Yeah.
The movie is like right on the edge of being, I mean, it is over the top, but right on the edge of being like overtly comedic.
Yeah, but I think he plays it so straight, Danny Glover, and I think he's really, really good in this movie. Like, he completely sells it, and he's not like winking to the camera or anything like that. It's just like, I'm committing to this role.
Too smart.
And then Predator shows up right away, like right in this scene. Danny Glover.
And it's also a heat wave, which is important to point out. Everybody's super sweaty. The amount of pit stains you see in this movie is off the charts.
It is insane. This has to be one of the sweatiest movies like I've ever seen. There at one point where like Bill Paxton shows up and he's wearing a suit.
Yeah.
And he's sweated through the suit.
Yeah. Yeah, not just the undershirt, but the outer jacket.
The outer jacket.
Pit stains, big stain on the middle of the back.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It's everywhere.
But that's the whole thing with the Predator, is that he hunts in these really hot environments.
Yeah, it's like the hottest times of the year, and I think that was kind of established in the first movie.
Which is why I thought it was so bizarre that they decided to make Alien versus Predator set in like Antarctica. Like he hunts the aliens, and
I kind of blame this movie for that spin-off, or those two spin-offs. They were absolutely terrible.
Yeah, was this the first we see a Predator ship at the end of this, and there's the skull of an alien as a little kind of like nod, a little Easter egg.
Yeah, and I think it was mainly because like Stan Winston did the like animatronics for the Predator. He designed the Predator and stuff like that. So I guess he threw it in as like a gag because he'd also worked on Aliens as well.
Little did he know.
Oh my God, that little gag.
The amount of crap we would have to put up with.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But, well, speaking of the wardrobe, we're talking about pit stains on these suits.
Okay.
Apparently in the slightly distant future
of 1997,
everybody is wearing like comically oversized suits. They all look like David Byrne. They're all wearing the David Byrne.
Everybody's wearing like zoot suits and stuff. They're so big. All the blazers have like shoulders that are 6 feet wide.
Two large suit jackets. And just these gigantic parachute pants.
Okay, we have to talk about Danny Glover's pants in this movie. These are probably physically the biggest pants I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I bet it is.
you know, it's like stinking hot. I think they said it's like, oh, it's 110 degrees or something. Sure, you want some billowy pants to cool you off, but these things, they look like they're made of like tweed or something, like thick wool or something.
Yeah.
And they're gigantic. And there's a shot when it's in the first scene when the Scorpion gang leader like gets shot off the roof and he falls. And Danny Glover, it's established that he has like a fear of heights.
Yeah.
So he's climbing up on the roof. And there's a shot when he comes up to the top of the ladder where I swear to God, like from the top of his waist of his pants to the bottom of his crotch, it is like 1.5 feet. I'm not even joking. I don't know, most like pant to torso ratios, like whatever, 55 to 45 or something. His is like 80-20. Like it's like, they're so big. And I remember at one point I Googled just Danny Glover pants Predator 2. And the first picture that came up was, I don't know where it was, but it was his shirt and his pants in a glass case on display.
Is that like a Planet Hollywood or
it
something?
Must have been a Planet Hollywood. But like when the pants were stretched out, it was almost like a 90-10 ratio to the shirt. So I was like, it's just absurd. So I was like as a joke, like imagining if like he opens the Predator's trophy room at the end and it's just like pants. It's just
so the Predators are really after? Yeah.
They're after pants. Yeah. They want my pants. So we're introduced to his team. So it's like Ruben Blades, and then we've got Maria Conchita Alonso. I love saying that name from The Running Man. She's got like this anime hair at the beginning. And then Bill Paxton, after that amazing one take, like dolly shot, Bill Paxton, he's almost playing like a caricature of a Bill Paxton character.
You are under arrest. And she said, why? I said, because your husband is dead. You killed him.
Like, it's funny because Josh and I just talked about The Dark Backward, and he's actually very similar. His performance is very similar in The Dark Backward as it is in this.
Okay.
She said, I stabbed that son of a bitch plenty of times. He never died on me before.
It's insane. It's like, okay, tell someone, do a Bill Paxton. It's like, and really ham it up.
Yeah.
He's doing it. Like,
it's great, though, because it's a nice counterbalance to Danny Glover, who's so kind of understated and playing it very real. Robert Davi shows up in the movie. I completely forgot he was even in this.
As did I. So, yeah, he shows up for 2 scenes, then we never see him again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's always good when he shows up. It's like in Showgirls or whatever.
Must be weird not having anybody come on you.
Gary Busey's introduced, kind of like this sneaky sort of government organization that's working in the background.
You don't know what they're up to.
Know what they're up to.
Which is nice, because obviously there's no mystery to the Predator anymore from an audience perspective. We know what's going on, so introducing this other mystery into the story.
Which is great. So it's like this whole other storyline, this whole other like team of people. But it's good, like, you know, Danny Glover and his team, they kind of think it's like another gang or something that's doing it. So
that's one moment of overacting from Danny Glover when he's reacting to the camouflage Predator. He's kind of like, but yeah, they think it's all gang related, and we get a gang showing up at someone's penthouse.
Oh
where
yeah,
the Predator also shows up, and this is again like. I guess this movie almost got a NC-17.
Apparently,
for its violence, but also its sexuality. Because man,
you got some dicks flopping around.
We got full frontal from everybody, and that woman is just like having a showgirl style seizure on that guy.
Oh yeah, I do like when they open the scene up, and you're like, well, what's going on? What is this noise? She's like.
Is it a predator? Oh no,
it's a girl having sex. Yeah, I love this whole apartment. Then King Willie's voodoo gang, I guess, breaks in. their wardrobe. Like, I don't know what the hell they're dressed as. It's like village people by way of like Boney M or something.
Yeah.
It's like gold lame.
Voodoo magic. Fucking voodoo magic, man.
That's why I say, like, is this racist? Is this beyond racism? I don't even know what's happening.
I had read that like Roger Ebert gave it a bad review and said the Predator was racist.
Like the character?
Like his design or something like that, because it was kind of like coded to make you think of like black people. And I could only think that maybe just like the dreadlocks or something.
That would be the only thing.
Yeah.
But the Predator was played by a black guy.
Yeah, Kevin Peter Hall.
Kevin Peter Hall, who played the Predator in the first movie, he's back for this one.
Yep.
When you look at Kevin Peter Hall in that wardrobe, makeup, and with that size, and you see him against Arnold, you believe, ooh, Arnie's in trouble.
But yeah, he's another reason that I think especially those first two movies work so well. Like his performance, his body movements,
the physicality is really good.
It's so like clearly thought out.
Yeah.
Like he moves almost like a snake.
It's like
sometimes.
graceful, like you know,
Yeah.
when he was like fighting Schwarzenegger at the end, then he was like.
Yeah, if you watch like, I don't know, Predators or some of these more recent ones, it just feels like a stunt guy in a rubber suit. It doesn't have that same sort of like.
It's like the proportions and the performance, but like all the later ones, and I don't know, I just feel like the suit design or like the face just looks worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's just like, you know, high def or whatever.
There's one thing I noticed. I don't remember if it was in The Predator or Predators, but there's one of them where I distinctly noticed, if you look at the first, especially the first movie, it has the, you know, the mandible things.
Yeah.
And then it opens up.
Yeah.
And you get the vagina mouth. But when it's closed, there's like the skin on the side by the mandibles that seems to like contract and expand with it.
Yes.
But in some of the later ones, or at least one of the later ones, I remember it looks like it's like folding in on itself.
It doesn't do it. Yeah, it doesn't like stretch back or just
so
go back to it. Yeah, it's kind of just like folded.
So it looks
weird.
more rubbery. It looks more fake.
But I don't, even in this one, I think this might be like just like a step down from the first one because it's got that like vagina mouth, which I don't remember seeing from the first one.
Okay, pussy face.
I think it's more like vaginal looking in this one.
But it's like, it's right behind the teeth, and it's like the sphincter or something, and it's like it talks with it. It goes like. Rah, rah.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple like extreme close-ups of the face that are clearly kind of like in like the Gremlins movies where you have the little hand puppet, but then for close-ups to get more articulation, you have the oversized ones. I think they did that for some of the close-ups of the face in this.
I think so.
Because it looks slightly different than it does in like wider shots.
But especially in the first movie, I think it looked fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and I was looking up pictures like today. I'm like, did they have it? And I just didn't see it. And I think it was just deeper in, or maybe the fact that he's lying on his back in this movie and like the lighting, you know, you can see it more clearly.
Yeah.
But it just seems very weird. I guess because he talks a lot in this movie, and I guess it was the only way they can.
You got to see
like,
something in there
something
moving.
like moving.
Shit happens.
I love the Predator as a character. I love, because it's like I can understand why people would be interested in like an Alien versus Predator because they're polar opposite. The aliens are just like mindless savages, and the Predator are like calculated. They have like honor, and they have all these interesting, you know, tools and weapons that they use.
Which I think is kind of like the whole honor thing is sort of introduced in the first movie, where it's like, you know, it doesn't like kill the woman because she doesn't have the gun. Like she picks up the gun and Schwarzenegger like kicks it out of her hand. You know, it doesn't hunt anybody that's unarmed or like kill anybody kind of needlessly. And they really kind of like build the kind of lore in this movie. So it's like, you know, Maria Conchita Alonso is like shown to be pregnant, and it like leaves her alone. You know, it has a lot of new weapons, which are really cool, which are introduced in this movie, especially this scene, the scene where King Willie's voodoo gang.
Oh yeah, he's got his giant staff.
Yeah, it's like extendable, and he's got the net thing.
Yeah,
that, like
very clearly thought out. All of his tools, all of his weapons.
Yeah, I think after the success of the first movie, they kind of just like really like built the lore of it and like the history and like kind of made it like, you know, I don't know, it gave some interesting characteristics to like the race of like the Predators.
Yeah.
There's like a name for them. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
There is an actual name for the predators?
It's like the Uchati or something like that. I don't know. It's like
the predators.
It's like whatever. Yeah, and I don't know. There's Alien versus Predator, sure. It's like whatever. It was in a Dark Horse comic book, I think, after this movie.
Yeah.
They kind of like ran with it, and it became really successful. But it's just like,
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is there was a series of comics. There was like a video game, maybe a couple of video games. And then when they finally made that Alien versus Predator movie, they didn't use anything from any of them, even though a lot of people seem to really like the storylines in it. So, but this movie introduces new things, but doesn't push it too far.
No, it's just giving you a little bit here and there.
Like it's actually satisfying at the end when we see the Predator ship.
Yeah.
And we see, several other predators. It's like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then the reveal of the gun, where it's like, oh, they've been doing this for a long time.
Which is great. It just like sort of peppers in these little moments, which I think kind of just expand the world and kind of like get your imagination going. And I don't know, like kind of leave the possibilities of where the franchise could go. But this movie flopped.
That's kind of surprising.
I
mean, especially at that point, there was every sequel was just a remake of the first movie, and they were all successful. So you would think that this one would fit right in.
It's just weird. Maybe it was like the Schwarzenegger thing. I think people were just like, really wanted him to be in it, and it was just Danny Glover. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
I see it like kind of Aliens, whereas like the first movie I think was kind of like a slow burn, more thoughtful, and then Aliens is like, okay, we're going to take that idea and just like expand it. Make it more actiony.
And again, like seeing the Predator in a new environment, like him on a subway is just such a bizarre image, but it
great,
works.
Yeah. So this is a really funny scene, and this is just kind of out of like RoboCop, like we were talking about.
Yeah, this is the most, definitely something out of like RoboCop 2 especially.
So it's like Bill Paxton, Maria Conchita Alonso are like riding this train, and then, I don't know, there's like this comical gang just like harassing people for money on the train.
Start picking on this one nerdy guy.
Whoa! Get the hell away from me! Don't make me use this thing! Please! Come on, bigger than yours!
It could be like a Naked Gun gag.
Yeah.
It's that like silly. And then of course the Predator shows up because I don't know, he's following like Bill Paxton or something.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like, because the first movie it's so clear. Because they're the only other characters in the jungle, so he's following Arnold Schwarzenegger and his squad. Here in a big city like LA, it's not quite clear why he's always ending up in the same location as these cops. Why is he targeting them?
I think like he's sort of like causing all the mayhem that all these crime scenes that they're going to, but also he's like taking an interest in them.
Yeah.
Because you kind of see from his POV, him sort of like hearing clips of them like Danny Boy and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. It makes sense with like Schwarzenegger, because obviously the Predator's on Earth to hunt. He's a sporting type. So it makes sense. Like you see someone like Arnold and you're like, oh, that's a formidable foe. That's what I could,
yeah, of course. But
But
there's tons of people in LA.
And you're in a big city like LA. Like, why are you tracking down Reuben Blades?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird.
So it's not quite as like clear cut as the first movie.
His motivation is a little like, I don't know. But we get. So this is a great scene. The lights go out, and it's almost like it is a horror movie, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
And this is where like the score kicks in. So like Alan Silvestri came back. It's a fucking amazing score. Like it's so good, and it's really like kind of pounding and blasting.
Yeah.
And just with the strobe lighting, and it goes on, and he's just slaughtering everybody. It's like amazing. Bill Paxton kind of. And then runs out of bullets and just throws like a golf ball. He's like,
did I miss it? Did they establish the golf ball earlier in the movie anywhere?
It's quite possible. I don't know if it was his or it was just like left over from one of the people that the Predator slaughtered. But I think he finds like a machete that somebody had, and he's just like, okay. He's just like shooting it. He's got a machete and he just has the golf ball and it's just like, fuck it.
It's like the first two steps in a Naked Gun gag, where then it becomes like more absurd things that rubber chicken.
Yeah.
That's the point where I always remember as a kid, like watching this on cable.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, from this point on is when the movie just never lets up.
Yeah.
And that score is constantly going, and it's basically like the second half of the movie is just one long, like, kind of chase scene.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just like pounding, like, and so he's chasing the Predator, but we get some like really iconic shots of like the Predator like up in the freaking like building. Holding
struck
like
by lightning.
He's struck by lightning, like his spear, and he's like holding up the skull and the spine. But there's a really good scene. So Danny Glover's character wants to go meet with King Willie. We've been hearing about King Willie like all throughout this movie. And sorry, I wrote down this quote. On the outside, it's like the camera just goes by this like news reporter woman, and I don't know, she has this like really funny like Californian accent. She's like, I think it could be the Fear Jamaican Voodoo Posse.
But at least one report indicates that it might be the Fear Jamaican Voodoo Posse.
This is the camera goes by. The Fear Jamaican Voodoo Posse. But Danny Glover,
the lead up to Danny Glover going to see King Willie, where he gets on the back of the car and it's just all these Jamaican guys smoking pot.
You want some ganja, man? It's just like it's got like zebra skin on the top of the car.
It's all so absurd.
And then they go to this alleyway. This is the most horrifying alleyway. It's like so disgusting. And did you read the backstory about what happened here?
No.
So they said they were shooting in like horrible parts of LA, and that the neighbors, it was like in a really bad neighborhood. The neighbors got so sick of the noise that they started throwing like bottles at them and stuff, and bags of feces.
Oh my God.
Down from like their windows onto the crew in the alley. And I'm thinking like, who shits in a bag? Like, are you shitting in a bag in your apartment?
But I wanted to ask you about, because that scene in the alley,
man.
then the Predator shows up, and we had that great transition where you hear him screaming, and you see close-up of his face, it looks like he's screaming, but then the Predator walks back, you realize he's holding his severed head.
That's one of the best, funniest cuts in movie history.
But I wanted to ask you, as an effects guy, I'm sure it's completely outdated effects now, but all the Predator like camouflage effects, they look pretty good in the first movie. They look really good here, and I have no clue how they do them.
There's this one shot, especially in this movie, when he lands in the water, and there's like one shot where it's like we're kind of just dollying along with his foot as he's splashing in the water.
This scene in particular is what made me think of this.
It's insane. It's like, and I don't know how they did it. And it's just like the water is like wrapping around his leg, and this is pre-CG. So
well, that's the thing is like, you see, especially with older movies, a lot of times now you can look at them and you kind of have a sense of how they did I have no idea
I really don't know, especially this one shot. I can only, when he lands in the water and he's invisible, obviously it's like air cannons or something, for his feet. But there's, that one shot where it's like the water is wrapping around his camouflage. Mm-hmm. And then it's like a kind of tilt down. I think he starts to reveal himself, and then it tilts down to see his reflection. Mm-hmm. Don't know.
Voodoo magic.
Voodoo magic, man.
They rolled some chicken bones onto a steel drum. And
I guess we got hints of it in the first movie where the Predator, you kind of see him like making his trophy. And
anytime we see the Predator doing something meticulous, it's always interesting to me.
I love it.
Like later in this, he gets his arm cut off, and we have to see his little like first aid kit, his futuristic first aid kit.
That was like my favorite
all
scene.
The details of that,
Yeah, he has this like he's smashing up the ceramic and stuff like that and putting it in this like little, I don't know, pouring this chemical on it. And
it's like he can take whatever sort of organic material happens to be around and use that magic blue liquid to turn it into
it has like,
like a medical gel.
Blue flame, and then he's like cauterizing his wounds with it and stuff. And then we get like the old New York lady, or LA lady, I guess.
Yeah.
Herb, there's someone in the bathroom. And we can hear the Jeopardy the theme in the background.
It's all right, I'm a cop.
I don't think he gives a shit.
And they like their design is like all kind of different. Like like I like the fact that they've sort of gone to the effort of like making each Predator look different. They've got their own kind of like, I don't know, gear and like designs and stuff like that. There's a famous video that was shot in this scene of them dancing.
Of them dancing in the Predator costumes. Yeah.
This is weird. That's Predator. It kind of ends the same way.
Although it's not an explosion of a predator killing itself, it's the ship taking off. So
Totally
a little
fine.
twist.
In retrospect, I love this movie. And it's like I have no issues with any of the callbacks. Seeing what cinema has become, right? Like
the only thing I could have done without is the motherfucker callback.
Yep,
That's
take
the
that
only
out.
thing. But yeah, I mean, especially when you see what's to come with this franchise and the Alien franchise, it's like this is a solid movie. The only thing I could see people having a problem with is just the tone and the action, the like cop movie action being pretty silly.
Yeah, but I kind of like it. I think it like fits the era, fits the vibe they were going for. People are saying it's very nihilistic. I don't know about that. It's just like, I've seen RoboCop and all these movies were like that back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, it's very violent, but that's the nature of the Predator. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fun, supremely underrated. I would go on to say that this is like a really awesome movie.